Find out which three Tennessee cities made the list of top cheapest places to live here on Chat Room. We're here on Chat Room. I'm Michael, and with my co-host
John.
And we're discussing three Tennessee cities that made the list of the cheapest places to live. This is according to the finance site Kiplinger, and we're getting this through WKRN.com out of Nashville. And they've used a number of calculations, living expenses, kind of cost of housing specifically, median income, and they've done this list for the whole country, but we are just concentrating on the, three cities that made it in Tennessee. And just to start, we've talked about the affordability of kind of the South and Tennessee in general. So I would imagine you're not too surprised that we have even three cities on this list, John.
Right. No, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, same. I was a little surprised, and I wonder, I expected more quote unquote towns, but if they are going by some definition of cities being a certain size, then it makes sense because, sometimes urban areas not always cheaper. Number one is not small. I think it's our third largest city. Sometimes I know Chattanooga gets close.
Yeah.
That is Knoxville. It already goes ahead, just in case there was any doubt. The largest city in East Tennessee. I guess I'm doing this less dramatically because I'm starting at the top. And so this is the number 7
Gotcha.
overall on the list of cheapest cities to live in.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so kind of where they're getting that is the average cost of living in Knoxville, 17.7% below the U.S. average. Yeah, not too bad. Housing costs are 30% below the U.S. average. Apartment rents are about a third less expensive. Typical home price is about $100,000, also less than the average.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I will say we're recording this August of 2022, so who knows what'll change.
Right.
But just to keep that in mind.
I would say the school impacts a lot of those stats you just read, as far as the number of people, it being the largest city. Because I've been downtown Knoxville, and it's definitely it's a large city, but it's not anything spectacular to the other downtowns in Tennessee. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I think a lot of that. How many people go to school at University of Knoxville? At least high 50,000s or something like that.
It feels like a lot for sure.
Yeah.
I don't have a current number, but in 2017 it was about 30,000.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But yeah, it could have grown a lot in the last 5 years because that is not a recent number.
Right.
But yeah, that's definitely brought a lot. Yeah, all kinds of different people, definitely students. So yeah, if you're not getting a rush on housing, then that can keep the costs low.
Yeah.
A lot of them are in dorms, so they're probably not flooding the apartments as much. Maybe that'll also keep the price low.
Yeah.
So yeah, I see what you're saying.
Also, one more thing, the difference between the University of Knoxville and because I know we both went to the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga, there's not a lot of so-called off-campus housing, if that makes sense. Compared to Knoxville, there's a variety of off-campus apartments that are still kind of I've been to some of my friends, they seem like dorms, but you drive to class, you know what I mean, instead of walking to class. I don't think UTC is on that level as far as off campus, that perimeter of campus.
Yeah.
So they pretty much I don't know if you've ever seen Douglas Heights, but they have a lot more of those options, you know what I mean, where you're close to campus, but you got to cross the bridge over the river, or and it's still considered through University of Tennessee, it's just not on campus, if that makes sense. So
yeah,
they have a lot of options like that. So
yeah, that does make sense.
That's why I really think the school has a lot of effect on Knoxville, you know what I mean?
Yeah, certainly. All right. Well, the number 2 city, and these next two are very close to each other geographically, but this is Jackson, Tennessee, and it ranked 11th on the list, which is not too shabby. And that's because cost of living is more than 16% below the national average up there. Everything from housing to mortgages, rents, and insurance are 29% lower. Apparently, there's also lower healthcare costs in the Jackson area. Not too bad. You got Kellogg, Stanley Black & Decker out there. So you've got the jobs too. And it's not too far, away from Memphis. It's very West Tennessee. So if you don't know Tennessee, very West Tennessee area we're talking about right now.
Right. I'm looking at Google Images. They actually have a really pretty downtown.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Honestly mostly driven through Jackson, and I think I've probably stopped. If they have a Cracker Barrel, I feel like I've stopped at every Cracker Barrel in Tennessee.
Right.
So, but yeah, beyond that, I can't say it's a city I'm that familiar with.
Yeah, it doesn't look too bad. I personally don't know a lot about Jackson, Tennessee, but I mean, if you're looking for new routes for your family, it might be a consideration. If you get a job that you like and like the atmosphere, go for it.
Yeah, I didn't even mention the International Rockabilly Hall of Fame. So, whatever brings you there.
Yeah.
I'll be happy to have you.
Right.
The last city, this one really surprised me because usually the bigger the city, the harder it is to afford anything. That's certainly true with West Coast, East Coast, Northeast especially. And this one is Memphis, coming in at number 18 on the list overall.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got lower than average housing cost. So they say average home prices come to $300,000 to $5,000, which, a few years ago may have freaked me out. But now it's like, oh, okay, the national average is about 400,000. So yeah, that's a savings about 100,000.
Right.
Also, typical apartment in Memphis is about $200 a month less than the U.S. average. I'm afraid WKRN did not decide to mention what the U.S. average is for that. I'd be curious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's Memphis. There's a lot of kind of
Violence.
things going on there. Yeah, yeah, it's. If you live in Tennessee, I worked with a lot of people when I worked at UTC as a student that were from Memphis. And admittedly, there was a reason they chose UTC, which is basically the same like Horizon, but the exact opposite side of the state.
Right.
They may have enjoyed growing up there. Almost all of them worked at Graceland at some point because it's just what you do.
Right.
Everybody seems to like Beale Street. Everything else, So, in addition to this being maybe the third on the list and not the cheapest,
Right.
I don't know if it's one I could speak to as much. But
yeah,
I've admittedly only spent like a few days in Memphis too, so I've never lived there.
I've spent a few days in Memphis, and I have a few friends actually from Memphis, pretty decent close friends. There's a huge separation in Memphis that is kind of like on the hush hush. Not that it's on the hush hush, but it's like either your parents or you as an individual do very well in Memphis and you're in certain areas, or you're kind of just like fighting the bottom of the food chain. You know what I mean? There's not, there's nice suburbs on this side, and then there's nice suburbs over here, and then, this is a ghetto street, and then here's another suburb, kind of like Chattanooga. It's more like, no, you live over there or you live over there. You know what I mean? There's, you've got high-tech business guys, CEOs, Memphis Grizzly players, people that are doing very well that live like in that area. And I think one of them might be called, is it Georgetown or is it?
There's Germantown.
Germantown, that's where it is. That's a very nice area. But then, like just the normal streets of Memphis, I've heard it's a completely different picture. And most of those people that are doing very well stay on that side. And you know what I mean? Unless they have a reason to go over there, but you're not really hanging out at the Walmart over there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, there's a lot of like major cities where the economic disparity between kind of like the better off and the worse off is really shown, and whether it's gentrification or a number of cultural social things, it really push people to different areas. So yeah, that's not surprising, because even in my probably more limited time than yours, that's kind of what it felt like that I was witnessing there too. So
yeah,
I'd be interested to know then, if this article went deeper into like which neighborhoods, because you're right, like Germantown, all I knew was that it was probably the more, well-off area.
Yeah.
But I'd be interested, and it's an average, so, I guess maybe it doesn't even have to be like one community or another that's kind of like bringing it down, but it'd just be interesting. They had kind of like a visual or a map kind of showing how this all played out.
Right.
But yeah, those are your top 3 cities on the list of the cheapest places to live here in Tennessee. And we'll keep you informed with all that kind of stuff and more on Chat Room. Thank you. Like, subscribe, and we're out.
See you.